Hello, people. I came across a couple of very interesting articles related to these impeachment proceedings and the prospect of not just impeaching President Trump, but also they've been working on ways to actually get him out of office. There's been such a big onslaught of all these different negative stories about President Trump, whether they're true or not. What I have noticed is that these people, they seem totally hell bent on getting President Trump not just impeached, but also out of office before the 2020 elections. And so in the press, they've been going over different scenarios whereby they can get him out of office before the election, and also they've been coming up with all type of technicalities and methods and things, any kind of loophole, any kind of method that they can use to get him out of office. And it's kind of curious to me how the whole focus is just to get him out of office, and it appears to me that this is basically being pushed by the status quo, people who benefit from the status quo, whether it's oligarchs, whether you call it the deep state, whether you call the deep state a long-time bureaucrats in the federal government, or whether you think of it as oligarchs as far as people behind the financial interests behind this, or behind the people who support the status quo, who get paid and they make their money based on the way things are now or the way they've been in the past. So President Trump, being an outsider, he's been throwing hand grenades, or he's been wrecking the way these people normally operate. So I think we can't be naive to think that just because President Trump is helping the country, that he has a bunch of friends in Washington, D.C. I think it's actually the opposite. These people in D.C. and the people that benefit from the way things were done before, these people are actively fighting against President Trump, and a lot of them are Republicans as well. So we can't be naive to just believe that if after these people railroad President Trump into an impeachment, that if it goes to the Senate, that all these Republicans are going to support him and not vote for impeachment. Now, this article, on that note, this article here is it's a Breitbart article, and it was an exclusive done with Michael Savage, the guy who he's been doing talk radio, I guess, for a long time. And so he comes up with a very interesting take on this whole impeachment issue. And he says right here, let me blow this up a little bit so we can see it better. Hold on, let's see here. He's saying right here that the Senate Republicans cannot be trusted. But that you can see that they're already doing this, but he's cautioning us, people in the Senate, to understand that GOP members could ultimately join their Democrat counterparts in voting to remove the president. They'll go whichever way the wind blows. He predicts, pointing to how Republican senators have repeatedly broken their promises to voters, referencing their decades-old failure to secure the porous southern border. And that these quislings are liable to go against Trump if push comes to shove. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them, and an elephant is their symbol. They never liked him. They never wanted an outsider in the presidency. They wanted someone who was amongst their club. He adds, the club machine on both sides decides who will become president. Along came this outsider, this gruff, vulgar businessman, and they hate him and still do. I don't trust many of them, if any of them. And I thought about that, and I guess that's something I haven't really said, but it's something that's been sitting in my mind for a long time anyway, because it's not just the Democrats that have been profiting from the status quo. There's been a lot of Republicans as well. So we'd be naive to think that just because these people are Republicans, I mean, would they have the rhino thing, Republicans in name only? But you have to understand these people, they've been benefiting from the status quo as well, and they probably do not want to see Donald Trump wreck this whole thing, because the way this is going with this investigation is that a lot of Republicans stand to be exposed by this as well. So I'm thinking a lot of them probably don't want to see it come out either. But it's the best thing for the country. Everybody, most people, if you're an American, now a lot of us don't want to admit it, but we know that the Washington D.C. is a dog. It's a cesspool. It's a toilet. It's ugly. These people have not been serving the country. They've been serving themselves and whoever pays them the most money. They don't serve us. And Americans are tired of it, but a lot of Americans are just exasperated with it because we feel there's nothing we can really do. Most people feel powerless to stop these people from doing the things they've been doing to us and the country, all for their own benefit or for the benefit of the people that pay them off. And that's why a lot of people are apathetic about politics, because they know this and they know, what can we do to stop these people? With President Trump, whether he's doing it or not, he's giving the impression that he's doing it. It appears that, they're doing something with this investigation. But, you never know with these people. There's so much intrigue. There's so much going on behind the scenes that, it looks like President Trump may be an agent for change, an agent for the people, but we don't know. This could be another hoax ran by another set of the cabal, or who knows. It really looks like he's stepping on toes, and you can judge that and get a sense of that just by how vicious the attacks are from the mainstream media. Because think about it, they weren't attacking all these other people doing all this bad stuff, but now all of a sudden President Trump is Satan personified. Just doesn't add up. The only thing that makes sense, if you really look at it, is that he's hot on their trail. He's threatening their bread and butter. That's what it looks like. That's what, on his face. Just from me studying how these things work for so long. These people, they have the intensity of the attacks and how concerted it is and how vicious it is, how persistent it is. They've been investigating him nonstop since he's been in office. The other thing is back to the article, what Mr. Savage talks about is that he knows that the 2020 Democrats, they simply don't stand a chance against President Trump. So these people know, they also know that what President Trump is trying to do is, in draining the swamp, is no way he could undo 50 plus years of all this corruption in just a 4-year period. He's made a lot of progress, but it just wasn't enough time. But so it's critical for him to get reelected so they can finish the job. But these people know this, and that's why they are so intent on stopping him. Well, all that said, that's why they're throwing as many people as they can, but these people are crazy. You have the Senate, Elizabeth Warren talking about a $52 trillion for Medicare for all. Who wants to pay for this? Who's gonna pay for this? This is crazy. It's insanity. This is the destruction of America. These people are working on $52 trillion. I mean, that's more than that's more than the deficit. I mean, this is crazy. It's insanity. Where's this money gonna come from? This will destroy the United States. And it's the same thing with Bernie Sanders, a devout, self-confessed socialist. And then you got the what they call them, the squad. You got the squad. These people, they want to get rid of the whole. I mean, openly talking about getting rid of the energy base for the whole economy without anything to replace it. So moving on, let's go to the next article. And this one's in politicususa.com. And like I was telling you, right here they talking about another scheme for how these people can figure out how to remove Trump from office without Republican votes. I mean, they're showing you the thought process, not just of the of the Democrats, but also the mainstream media. I don't know where this Politicus USA is, but they putting this right on here, and they delineate right here that what happens, the way the removal of the president works, is that all they have to do is get 2/3 of the senators present for the proceedings. They don't have to get 2/3 of the Senate, which requires 66 votes. If they could just get it to the point where some of the Republicans don't show up, if enough Republicans don't show up or don't boycott the final Senate vote, as they say right here, then what that will do is it will give the Democrats enough votes and enough of a majority, enough to where they can actually remove President Trump from office, which is a scary proposition, because we as voters, we as Americans, we have to stand up and make sure that this doesn't happen. And I guess on the last take, I saw this other article done a few days ago by Political magazine, and they also talk about how there's a surprisingly plausible path to removing Trump from office, in that it would only take just 3 Republican senators to turn the impeachment vote into a secret ballot. And he also says here it's even more so, it's not hard to imagine what would happen then. So these people, they're coming up with ways where they can get Trump out of office. She said, what happens if senators could vote on an impeachment by secret ballot? See, the one thing scaring a lot of these Republicans from turning against President Trump is because President Trump is so popular, until they don't want the backlash that they would get if people knew that they voted against President Trump. But if these people can come up with this scheme where they can impeach him by secret ballot, then they could pull it off. But this should infuriate people, because these people are doing all this backdoor stuff, any kind of trick they can use to get the president out of office. This is crazy. And then she even talks about in the article how a secret impeachment ballot might sound crazy, but that is actually quite possible. This is really chilling, and for these people to be able to do this. Now, all these are people that have been in office. Some of these people we didn't like in office, but are you really going to destroy? Think about it. If they do this in this manner, these people, they'll be able to overturn any election they want to overturn. We already know that, the government is not really, we know it's corruption in the government, but they at least abided by a little bit of justice or a little bit of decorum, whereby it actually looks like or it at least looks like, appears that you have a functioning government with checks and balances. And but this is just something where we gonna throw this guy out. We're gonna figure a way to throw him out. We're just gonna do it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna throw this guy out. This is where the mainstream media sits on this. Now I'm not sure where Politico is either on the scale. I haven't had a chance to look it up, but it's kind of like they're outlining. People are sitting up thinking and outlining methods whereby they can help the Democrats to throw President Trump out of office. Even if they do this, even if you hate Trump, think about this. Think about what this will do to the United States government for future presidents, for future generations. Now it's just a free for all. If you want to throw a guy out of office, you just concoct any kind of scheme you can to get him thrown out. Is that really the way you want the country to function? This is basically turning America outright into a banana republic. This is banana republic stuff that we used to laugh about. That'll never happen here. Look at what's going on now. It's happening here. It's happening now. And people with any shred of decency, or if you really care about this country, you need to step up and stop this type of operation. Already what they've done to President Trump this is ridiculous. This is doing untold damage to this country, to the government. It comes a point in time where you just have to stop and you have to say, wait a minute. Is this really the road we want to go down? Do we really want to get anything we want, no matter what the cost? Not just to the country, but this has wide-ranging ramifications. This is not just about what's happening today. This has ramifications for what's going to happen to the country in the future. So people that are on this mainstream media circus thing for by any means necessary, you really need to stop and think about what this will portend for the future of this country. Because these are not just light things. Once we go here, where do you think it's going to logically lead to? It's going to lead to mass chaos. It's going to lead to distrust, and it may even lead to a civil war, and it also could lead to a dictatorship. That's not out of the question on this road. So sit down and think about this. People really need to stop and think about this stuff. Thanks for listening, and hopefully this will really get you to thinking about how serious this really is. So leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Share it with your friends. Go ahead, subscribe if you want to hear, or let me know if there's any other topic that you want to cover or that you want to talk about. All right, thanks a lot.